For many Blake scholars, the idea that Blake's words should become the unofficial national anthem for England is utterly confusing. On the one hand, many who love Blake and who have studied the financial hardships he endured and his struggle in his own day for recognition must recognize that these forms of institutional success are a wonderful, belated recognition of Blake's undisputed genius and should be celebrated. But then, on the other hand, it's not entirely clear that the millions of people who have learned these words by heart have a clue what the song is about. It's all very well and good, Blake having recognition, but recognition without understanding may be no recognition at all. And it must surely strike most people who spent any time reading Blake's screeds against forms of organized state religion and his repulsion at the monarchy, that symbol of all things that are corrupt about human attempts to assert dominion over other humans, that to have the royal family singing Blake's works at a wedding of one of the heirs to the throne in Westminster Abbey is almost too incomprehensible to adequately process. The word irony doesn't quite cut it. It seems to me, though, that this reaction only takes one half of the song into account. If you recognize that the song isn't just words, but words set to music, then things start to get a little more comprehensible. Because it is a great, crowd-lifting, heart-swelling tune, and it was deliberately written that way by Parry, who designed it as a singable, pride-inducing anthem. And I think this can tell us some important things about the nature of song, and in particular what tunes can do to words. This is not to say that the patriotic meanings of the tune obliterate the meanings of the words, overwhelming them with a totally different set of associations, but something more subtle is going on here. What the tune does is foreground certain meanings that were already latent in the words, but brings them to the surface, making them much more explicit. So phrases like England's green and pleasant land are very easy to convert into a kind of national pride. Those meanings are already there. Now, for Blake, this was part of a critical stance towards England. England was corrupt and impoverished, handcuffed by its own lack of imagination. But that carries the implication that if we could win the mental fight and break down the conceptual barriers that have been constructed, England could be better. It could be the New Jerusalem. On the other hand, most readers of Blake will tell you that England's domination over other places was of considerable concern, and Blake's work grappled with the systems of oppression from which England had profited. These systems of oppression, of course, included the slave trade, upon the back of which England's wealth and power had been founded. Part of the critique of England is that its political structures are organized around the materialist interests of profit and commerce, and that it's lost touch with the infinite possibilities of humanity. These things are lurking in the background of Blake's preface to Milton, and the reader familiar with Blake's entire corpus can detect them there, but they're substantially diminished by Parry's tub-thumping patriotic tune. But it doesn't mean that they're not there, and you can choose to hear them there if you want. So what then does it mean for the song to be sung at Westminster Abbey by the British royal family and their guests? Well, it means that music has the capacity to shift the meaning of words, not erasing them entirely, but tweaking their emphasis. But it's also a helpful reminder that the meaning of works of art are never stable, but can get reinterpreted and reinvented over time. That is, after all, what Bridges and Parry did to Blake's poem. They gave it a different kind of meaning appropriate to the moment in which they read it, and that is what we continue to do every time we sing the song. We change its meanings. We form new contexts for understanding it, and we see which words strike us more forcefully now than they might have in a different moment. It is this capacity of song to keep making new meanings with each performance that seems most important to me. It demonstrates that Blake's poem is dynamic and not a thing that has a stable, agreed-upon set of meanings.